Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us today. My name is Keith Heinley. I'm the Vice President of Community Impact here at United Way. Also the one that sends out the emails for the Mayor's Fitness Challenge and does all the calculations. And we're having another great year. In fact, I think our overall numbers are quite a bit higher than even last couple years. But before each of these video messaging or education series. I do want to mention that United Way does have a federal marketplace health insurance navigators to help people sign up for health insurance, free and unbiased service provided by these navigators. So if you need to get a hold of a navigator for help with getting access to those services, and that's also for kid care and Medicaid. You can call 321-615-3764, and I'll put that number in the chat. I have said enough. I'm going to pass it over to Kia so she can get started. I will follow the chat and continue to let people in as they come in.
All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. Just give me a few seconds. I am going to share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was muted. Yes.
Thanks. All right. All right. So thank you for taking the time to join us. My name is Kia Quintana. I am the Senior Health Educator at the Department of Health. Just a few housekeeping items. Feel free to stop me and ask any questions. You can unmute yourself. You can write questions in the chat. You can use the raise your hand option. Doesn't matter. Feel free to interrupt me. I have put a survey link in the chat. It's also at the end of the slideshow. It's a survey. If you could take that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. It would be really helpful. And I promise it's a super quick survey and it's easy to do. So today we're going to talk about simple ways to improve your health. I think there's this misconception that you have to go all out and go crazy to improve your health, to lose weight, to do all these things, when in reality, you can take some very simple steps that will lead to healthier choices and healthier actions, and will create habits in the long run that will improve your health. So hopefully I can give you a few tools, a few different ideas that'll help you create habits that are not only easy for you to do, but that will become habits that will help you in the long run. Okay, so the first things first is to read your nutrition label. I know this seems kind of very common sense, but in reality, a lot of people don't do it. You pick up something and you don't think about it. You eat something and you don't look at the nutrition label. And it's something that can be a really useful tool, particularly if you just want to get healthy in general. But if you already have chronic diseases, if you're trying to lose weight, this is a really important tool to have. So what you should focus on when reading your nutrition label. The first, and I think one of the most important things, is serving size. Particularly how many serving size are in the container. So the serving size is usually on the very top of the nutrition label. And the number of servings that you're going to eat determines the number of calories you're going to eat. So a lot of the time we assume that you will see calories and it says 280 and we're like, oh, we're good. But in reality, it's 280 per serving. So if you end up, eating the entire serving size, or the entire, let's say it's a bag of chips, and you eat the whole bag, in reality, you're eating like over 1,000 calories. And so you've eaten over half of the calories you want to eat in a day. So the serving size is almost more important than the calories. The calories are useful if you want to lose weight. So in order to lose weight, you have to be calorie deficient. So in that case, really pay attention to the calories you're eating. And just a little note on the serving size isn't the amount you should be eating. It's not a recommended amount. It's just the amount that people usually eat. So just because it says serving size doesn't mean that's the amount it's suggested that you eat. You can eat less, especially if it's high in calories, or you can eat more if it's low in calories. The next thing is added sugars. So added sugars is towards the bottom of your nutrition labels. Usually you see total sugars and then you see added sugars. You want to focus on the added sugars. Total sugars usually includes sugars that are naturally in the food you're consuming. So let's say things like fruit, they have natural sugars already in there, and they're not bad for you. But obviously you want to keep the total sugars low, but particularly pay attention to added sugars. Those are the ones that are added when your food is being processed. So they're more dangerous to us. Naturally found sugars usually, I'll use the example of fruits. The sugar that's naturally found in foods, you're eating along with things like fiber, which helps with slow down the absorption of sugars. So they're better and easier to process in your system and won't spike your sugar levels really high. Whereas added sugars, you eat it and it's practically, your sugar levels will practically shoot up if it's really high. And there's nothing that slows it down. The next thing you should focus on is sodium. Sodium is particularly important if you have high blood pressure, if you have any sort of heart health disease. So really take into account the sodium levels. I find it challenging to just look at the milligrams. So I like to look at the daily value. So an easy way to kind of tell yourself if you're eating too much is anything above 20% is considered high. Anything below 5% is considered low. So for the most part, as long as we are maintaining the daily value below 5%, you're doing pretty good. Now, usually things that are processed are going to be high in sodium. So think about your chips, your ready to eat meals, things like canned soups tend to be really high in sodium. So just take that into account. Ideally, you want to be able to control the sodium you're going to put on your food. So that's why it's always better to eat things that you make on your own. That way you can control the amount of salt that you're putting in your foods. But so ideally you want to try to stay away from processed foods. That's a good way and a sure way of keeping your sodium levels down. The last and also really important is the trans and saturated fats. Don't necessarily look at the total fat because total fat also includes unsaturated fats, which are good fats for you. So saturated fats are the ones that we want to keep low, and same thing with trans fats. So again, look at the daily value, the percentage. If it's above 20%, it's considered high. If it's below 5%, it's considered low. So why should I read the nutrition label? It really teaches you what to look for in healthy foods, and all foods really. You don't want to limit yourself or not be able to eat certain things. But if you look at your nutrition label, then you can determine the right amount to eat. So because it really makes you aware of what you're eating and how much you're eating. I think a lot of time we eat food and we just eat it without thinking, and we don't realize how much we're actually eating. I mean, even things that we think are healthy, things like, going to a restaurant, you get yourself a salad, and that salad can be over 1,000 calories really easily. And you think you're doing all the right things, but you aren't actually sure of what you're actually eating and how much you're actually eating. And the other thing it really helps you avoid is misleading labels. There's a lot of things that will say low in fat, no trans, low in sugar, artificial sugar. There's all these labels that are just kind of really gimmicky. They catch your attention and you assume you're eating healthy, you assume you're eating the right things, but in reality, they're just really trying to sell you something. So really take a time to look at your nutrition label. It's the easiest and most important thing you can do. The next thing is to get moving. I know this is really something that seems kind of obvious, especially in the Majors Fitness Challenge, but what I'm talking about is things outside of regular exercise. So simple things just like getting up and moving, especially if you're at your job and you're sitting in a desk all day, getting up and moving. When you're watching TV, get up and dance, get up and stretch, whatever it is you have to do to get moving. Studies have found that sedentary behavior is an important determinant of health independently of physical activity. So just because you exercise doesn't mean that sedentary behavior isn't going to affect you. So if you exercise, but then you go home or you're at work and all you do is sit around, that also affects your health. So just get up and move. If you have to set a reminder, if you have to set an alarm, every hour, walk around your office. If you're cleaning, you're constantly moving, just keep your body in motion. That's one of the best things that you can do for your health. So just, even if you're watching TV, just get up and move, especially if you are not aware of how long you're sitting. Like if you're sitting watching a movie for 2 hours, get up and move. Just stand up, stretch, and then continue and sit back down and watch your movie. The next thing you can do is to eat slowly. This is particularly useful if you're trying to lose weight. As you eat, your body releases hormones that tell your brain when you're full. And it also tells you when you should stop. So if you're eating really fast, your brain doesn't catch up quickly enough to tell you to stop eating, because it takes about 20 minutes for your stomach to tell your brain that you're full. So people who eat quickly can consume too much food, and then you realize it later when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so full, I can't fit in my pants. Well, that's part of the reason why. So people who eat quickly are more likely to be overweight as compared to people who eat slowly. So really sit down, enjoy your meal, really taste your food. Avoid electronics. People have found that when you have electronics, you tend to eat quickly. If you know that for whatever reason, let's say you're at work and you have a short lunch, so you're gonna have to eat fast, then really take time to avoid those electronics, because having that cell phone in your hand, you're just not aware of what's going on. So you tend to not only eat a lot faster, but you also tend to overeat. So really just take time to sit down and just enjoy your food, enjoy the company, and just be aware and really slow down when you're eating. The next thing is to keep a journal. And when I say a journal, I don't necessarily mean like a physical paper and pen journal. It can be your phone, your computer, an app, but you really want to keep track of your food, because I think a lot of times, like I mentioned before, we don't realize how much we're eating. And we can eat all the right things, but if you eat too much of it, then you're not helping yourself. And so really keep track of the food you eat and how much you're eating. And that will kind of help you realize where you need to tweak yourself. So if you realize that you're eating a really big late night snack, then maybe that's the one thing you can cut back on. Or if you are not eating breakfast, or you're eating a really bad breakfast, then you can switch that up. But writing that down will show you how much you're eating, what you're eating, when you're eating. So just keep that in mind. The next thing you should focus on is sleep. I think sleep is one of those really underrated things that can have a huge impact on your health. So if you're not getting enough, or if you're getting too much, that can affect your health as well. Or if you're just sleeping the right amount, but you're not sleeping well, that can also affect your health. So keep track of that. You can also keep track of your exercise. This is really more so if you're trying to lose weight. That way you can keep track of how many calories you're burning compared to the number of calories you're consuming. So that's really important. The next thing is emotions. I mean, people don't realize, or maybe they don't just pay attention to how much emotions can affect not only what you eat, but also just how it affects your day-to-day life. So yes, depression is like the one go-to, right, that we can think of when we're talking about health. But even things like boredom, right? Are you eating a lot of food because you're bored? Is that the reason why you're eating, or are you eating because you're hungry? Simple things like that can help you realize the reasons why you're doing something, the reasons why you're taking a certain action. So just keep that in mind, whether it's a good emotion, bad emotion, write it down. And that will help you kind of figure out what you can do to change it. And the next thing is to write down your daily wins. And what I mean by that, it can be as simple as, you ate more fruit that day, you had a good day at work, whatever it is, write it down. Daily emotions, what it does, it taps into your positive emotions, and positive emotions have been linked to a healthier and longer life. So the idea of thinking positive really does have an effect on your health. But a lot of the time we get overwhelmed by everything else going on in our life, by all the negative. So writing down your daily wins can be something that's really useful and can help you pinpoint, even if it's the most simplest thing, something good that happened.